Okay, good morning and welcome everyone. I'm Gareth from the comms team here at Vale. I'm joined today by Vale's answer to Martin Lewis. It's Adam from our Money Matters team.
How are you doing?
Today we're going to be talking about something that's been in the press a lot over the past few weeks, and that's universal credit. If you currently live in Helsby in the Chester Job Centre area, you might be already claiming it. And over the next few months, it's going to be rolled out gradually across the region. It's coming to Winsford next month, and it'll be in Northwich in December before Christmas time. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about universal credit, what it means for you, what you need to start claiming it, and what support is out there, not just from us, but other organisations as well. So Adam, for those who might not know a lot about it, what is universal credit?
Okay, so it's a relatively new benefit. It's replacing 6 of the old benefits which people might know about. So it's replacing income support, housing benefit, working and child tax credits, employment support allowance and job seekers allowance. It's a means tested benefit, so it's dependent on what income you have coming into the household. It's paid to people who are in work and out of work. It is a digital service, and as you mentioned there, it's been rolled out, going live on the 1st of November for Winsford customers and the 13th of December for Northwich customers.
So lots of changes coming in very quickly. So what do you need to start sort of claiming universal credit?
Okay, as I say, it's a digital service, so you need to have access to an email, a phone number, a bank account, a mobile phone. You obviously need to start paying rent directly to us, because the rent payment does go to the customer and not to us, as is the case with housing benefit. Photo ID for verification. So as I say, yeah, it's fully digital, so that's what people need to really start to get their heads around.
And obviously the housing benefit element you mentioned there comes under universal credit.
Yeah.
What's going to be the big differences for customers then in terms of the housing benefit?
Right, so current customers now who are in receipt of housing benefit, obviously the rent payment comes to us as the landlord every month. With universal credit, the housing cost element of the universal credit payment goes directly to the customer, as well as the living cost part of universal credit. So the big difference is that customers need to start paying rent directly to us. That is the big change, one of the big changes with this system.
Okay, look, that's great. And like I say, if you've got any questions throughout this broadcast, just drop them in the comment box below, and we'll do our best to answer them. I mean, you've touched upon this being a new system. When universal credit does arrive for people in Winsford and Northwich, will people automatically move over to the new system?
It's a good question. The answer is no. So if people are currently on one of those old, I'm using the phrase again, legacy benefits, so housing benefit, income support, job seekers allowance, employment support allowance, tax credits, and they have a change in their circumstances, that will prompt a move on to universal credit. If they are in one of the areas which has gone to what they call full service universal credit. So Winsford 1st of November, 13th of December for Northwich. So an example of a few changes would be change to working hours. You start work, you leave work, you become poorly. Maybe you have a new child, a new partner, you move to a new property, into our area for the first time, for example. All those changes will generate a claim for universal credit, because you will not be allowed to claim one of those 6 benefits that I talked about.
Oh, that's great. And just a question from me, really. I mean, obviously it's a lot for our customers to get our heads around. What has it been like for you and the rest of the staff to get your heads around universal credit?
It's been tough. There's lots of parts of universal credit that we don't, as a landlord, really agree with. So I think we feel that with our customers. But it's here. We've just got to get on with it and make make the best path through it, I guess. So at the moment we've got about 120 people on universal credit, and one thing for sure, the arrears for those people, their rent arrears have increased. Mainly because, and I think we're going to go on to that in a few questions time, but mainly because of the wait before you get that first universal credit payment. There is things you can do though, and to give you some money a little bit earlier than having to wait sort of 5-6 weeks.
That's great, Adam. And you mentioned that it's a fully digital service, and a lot of the support is available online.
Yeah.
Is there any support available for people who are maybe struggling to get their head around getting online?
There is. There is the local council, Cheshire West. They have access to PCs there. You've got the libraries, but also when these systems, Universal Credit full service rolls out into job centres, into Winsford and Northwich, there's a lot of job centre staff made available as floor walkers, so to speak, to help people access and make a claim online in the job centre. Alternatively, people can do it on their mobile phones, or if they've got PCs at home. As I say, that claim, the initial claim, has to be made online, and then it continues to be online throughout the life of the claim. As I say, the government want people to be accessing all this electronically and not having to see people face to face, really.
And you touched upon it just then, that 6 week wait then for that first payment.
Yeah.
Is there like a standard wait for it? Is that standard 6 weeks? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard of people waiting longer than that, to be honest. The way that Universal Credit legislation is mapped out is that when you make your first claim, you then have to wait 1 month and 7 days for that first payment. Some people have to wait 1 month and 14 days for that payment, so that's 6 weeks. But they're people who will be making a brand new claim to one of the benefits. If you've come off one of those existing benefits I've talked about, the income support, job seekers allowance, etc., within the last month, you should only wait 4 weeks and 7 days. We know that the job centre are making people wait longer than that, but if people know that that's the situation, then that's what they should be saying to their work coaches. Listen, I know that I should be waiting 4 weeks and 7 days for that first payment.
Wow, so I mean...
Still a long time.
Yeah.
Because that's with no money to actually live on, and actually no money towards that rent as well, which is the important thing.
I know, I mean, I've spoken to a few of our customers who are claiming Universal Credit now, and that's been the common theme, isn't it? That 6 weeks is really hard. I mean, what sort of things have you heard from other customers? What's been their experience on Universal Credit on the whole?
I think, as you say, waiting a long time for payment is a huge problem. The fact that it is a digital system, and some people just haven't got access to that, that's caused people big problems. And also then maintaining that claim online, keeping that up to what you heard me mention the journal. So when you've made your claim for Universal Credit, you have a journal, and your work coach contacts you via that journal and gives you to-do lists. And so you have to be regularly looking at that journal to make sure that you are doing what is asked of you in your claimant commitment, which is agreed between you and the work coach right at the start of your Universal Credit claim. And that talks about how many hours a week you have to be looking for work, etc. So it's really important that not only do you have that, you have access to make your claim to start with, because every day you leave it, you're missing out on money, but also to keep that claim going throughout its life as well.
And we've just checking now, we've had our first question through from Caroline Howarth.
Fantastic.
And she's asking, I know we touched upon the date, but when does it actually start in Northwich? When does Universal Credit come in?
Okay, so it starts on the 13th of December, which is a really bad timing again for Christmas. We know that's going to put extra strain on our customers who live in that area. People need to start planning ahead. On the 13th of December, if you have a change in your circumstances from one of those existing 6 benefits I've talked about, you will be asked to claim Universal Credit. And at that point, you will not be getting any money for at least 5 weeks. So people need to start planning now, because people never know when there's going to be a change. A change can happen at any point in time. And one of those changes is, say, you become sick, you change your work hours, a new child, all those types of changes will mean that you have to claim Universal Credit. So people need to start putting money aside now, paying extra on their rent, maybe opening a credit union account, start to saving for that time when you know you're going to be without money for 5, maybe 6 weeks.
And we know we've touched upon this, but we've just had a question through from Luke Hayes, so thanks for that, Luke. Luke says, is there any way to still get rent paid directly to a landlord instead of claimants, or is it possible with universal credit? He makes a really valid point here. I think a lot of people will see the extra money and just spend it due to the long wait in payment.
That's a great question,
yeah,
Luke, actually.
Is there any way, you know, for customers who are going to be paying, you know, rent directly to us for the first time, what can we do to make things, you know, easier for them?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, to anyone who's going onto universal credit, who's going to struggle to pay their rent, is to pick up the phone and ring us. And I would say you need to be ringing the income team and Money Matters, which is my team, is part of the income team. 01606 813 535, that's 01606 813 535, and just have a conversation. We have lots of support teams here at the Trust. We have Money Matters, we have the Support and Wellbeing team, we have the Works and Enterprise team. Mm-hmm. Everybody is trying to help people through these types of problems. You've got to speak to us. Luke made a really good question. Made a really good question there. Very good point. Lots of customers that I come across do want those rent payments to come directly to us because that's what they've known under housing benefit, and they know that when that money comes to them, that temptation to be able to spend that and not pay that towards their rent is a problem. Keeping the roof over their heads is everything, isn't it? A home is everything, and we want people to stay in that home, but people need to pay that rent. There is things you can do to get those payments sooner, and also you can request to the work coach that you want payments coming directly to your landlord. It's called an alternative payment arrangement, and you have to meet certain criteria which are listed under Tier 1 and Tier 2 factors, they're called. So Tier 1 factors could be something like you have mental health issues, you have a history of debt, etc. If you share that with your work coach and say that that's what you want to happen, your work coach should put that into practice so that your rent, your housing cost element, your rent element of that universal credit payment comes to us as your landlord. So there is options. I don't know if you want me to touch on our benefit advances now. Is it a good time to?
Yeah, go for it.
The other thing which is not widely publicised by the Job Centre and Universal Credit is that people who are making a brand new claim and are facing that 5-6 week wait for any money can request a benefit transfer advance or a new claim advance. Now, the one that most people will be entitled to, and again, it's not the one which is possibly going to be presented to you by the Job Centre, but it's the one I would want people to go for if they had to go for any. It's the benefit transfer advance. As long as you have been on one of those 6 benefits in the last month that's been replaced, then you can qualify, and you can get 50% of your universal credit award paid to you within 72 hours.
Wow.
If you ask your work coach, I can't wait 72 hours because I'm under financial hardship, I can't afford to feed my family, I can't afford to live, that payment can be activated within 1 day by 3 o'clock that same day. And I know politicians are coming under pressure with people having to wait that long and are having to use food banks and get food parcels for the first time in their lives, which is completely wrong. I know that job centres will be on their agenda more because politicians are pushing this more and more because they're hearing the stories of people waiting that long for payments, which is just wrong. So people, if they can't afford, you need to be asking for your benefit transfer advance, and you need to be asking for a fast payment on that. It goes directly via BACS into your bank account, hopefully within that same day.
So that could provide a lifeline for someone getting that quick payment.
So yeah, it could be £500-600 that someone can receive there. Obviously, again, some of that will need to be paid towards that rent. but I would just really ask people just to ring the income team and have them conversations. You know, we are really blessed at Vale Housing Trust because we have lots of teams that are there to support people. But sometimes we can't support people if we don't know. I know from Money Matters side of things that when someone contacts us and engages with us, on average last year we increased the money in their pocket by over £4,300 per year.
Wow.
We got over £2 million in extra income for customers last year and helped over 600 customers. So this isn't just me saying this, this is real. If people contact us and get that support, we will help. We're there to help.
That's great, and you know, I can just reiterate that. I've spoken to some of the people that Adam and the team have helped, and you know, the difference it's made to their lives has been incredible. So don't bury your head in the sand. You know, get in touch with the guys there.
Exactly, yeah.
A couple more questions coming through now. We've had one from Sarah. She says, how does this work for self-employed people? Is there any sort of difference with the way they claim universal credit?
Yeah, again, very good question. So self-employed, it is slightly different. So under housing benefit, you, as a self-employed person, for example, you could just provide details of what income you were making, and it would just be assessed. Under universal credit, slightly different. You make the claim exactly the same. So online, you make that initial claim. First of all, you set an account up, and then you make that claim for universal credit, and that's your live claim then. If you are newly self-employed, so within the last 12 months, you provide every month details of what you're earning and your expenses, and it gets calculated. If after 12 months you are not earning enough, which is the same as let's say 35 hours work on the minimum national wage, then universal credit will apply that rate regardless of what you're earning, because their argument is if you've been self-employed for at least 12 months and you're not making much money, then really you shouldn't be doing it. Possibly slightly harsh, but that's the way that it will be calculated. So regardless of what you're earning, you will have put into your claim for universal credit the earnings of, let's say, 35 hours a week, full-time work, times the national minimum wage based on your age.
Well, thanks for that, Adam. And another question from Kelly, and this has been a very common question from a lot of people who've been in touch with us. What classes as a change in circumstance? I know we've touched upon this. She says her partner gets a small pay rise every January. Would this mean we would change over to universal credit?
Very good question again. Yes, potentially. Obviously, if Kelly was in receipt of tax credits and that tax credits needed to be amended because of a change to income, that change would then mean that it's one of those 6 benefits being replaced, and would potentially mean a claim for universal credit if it happened after the 13th of December or the 1st of November, which January it would. Yeah, that is something, that is a potential change which would take you across to universal credit.
And obviously budgeting is going to be a massive thing.
Huge.
For people going over to universal credit, especially during that first 6 weeks.
Especially Christmas as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what simple tips can you give to people in terms of budgeting and advice?
I think people just, I know it's going to be difficult, but people just need to realise that they're going to be in with a tough few weeks when they move on to universal credit financially. They have to be thinking about that time and putting money aside now. Putting a direct debit up onto the rent account, I would say straight away, so that they know their rent is always going to be covered and they've got that roof over their head. You know, we do not want to evict people. I want to just say that now. We don't want to evict people. But unfortunately, we do evict people. People who often bury their head in the sand and don't come to us for that help and don't pay that rent. You know, they need to be thinking for the future, making savings, open a credit union account. If they get child benefit, for example, that can just be paid straight into that account every week. Before you know it, that account's really built up, and people can then access very, very low cost loans because they put some money aside into that credit union account. Get ahead on that rent account, pay a little bit more onto that account so they're in credit. get that benefit transfer advance if you need it at the start of your claim or your new claim advance. But it's going to be difficult for people, you know. A lot of people, including myself, we live sort of, you know, hand to mouth, so to speak, don't we? We live week to week, we spend what we earn. And I think most people are the same, you know.
And just to sum up now, this has been great, Adam. There's lots of useful stuff in there. What are just to sum up basically what we've talked about? What are the 5 things people need to do or know about universal credit?
Okay, they need to know it's online. They need to know that it's fully digital, so they need to get things in place to be able them to make that claim and to maintain that claim. They need to start putting money aside now and getting that rent account in credit. And they need to speak to us. They need to speak to us if there is any problems that they are having. They need to give us a call 01606 813 535 and talk to us. And the income management officer that deals with your account will listen to you and guide you and refer you into the support teams that we have available. You know, we have great links with food banks around the area, the Salvation Army, etc. We work fantastically well with and an amazing service. You know, we can get those food parcels out temporarily. We can guide people through those benefit transfer advances. We can help people fight some of the problems that they will encounter on their universal credit claims. We can help people get work. There's lots we can do.
Well, that's great, Adam. Thanks very much for taking the time out to speak to us today. Really hope you found that useful. So basically the advice is, don't bury your head in the sand if you're worried. Get in touch with us. There is help out there. And thank you for joining us. Like I say, we hope you found it useful, and I think the plan is to hold another one of these just before it gets rolled out in Northwich come December time. So if you've got any questions in the meantime, either get in touch with the team or get in touch with us via Facebook. We're more than happy to help. So thanks again for joining us, and a quick thank you to Abby, who is filming this, whose hands must be absolutely killing now because she's been there for a good 10-15 minutes. So thanks, Abby, and once again, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.